Hello, and welcome to Scary Stories. Tonight, you'll hear two chilling encounters that began in places meant to feel safe. A quiet grandmother's house, where a child saw the impossible, and a summer camp hidden deep in the woods, where something watched, waited, and refused to let go. These are stories from people who didn't believe in ghosts until one night changed everything. So get comfortable and listen closely. 5 Nights at Granny's House. This story will tell us about a night in a place that was supposed to feel warm, safe, and familiar. A grandmother's house, a place of childhood comfort, until something happened that shattered that feeling forever. I want to start with a small disclaimer. I've never believed in ghosts. I don't believe in the supernatural, demons, or anything like that. I'm not trying to scare anyone, and I'm definitely not trying to troll. Even now, as an adult, I lean toward logic and rational explanations. But no matter how many years pass, no matter how often I replay this memory in my head, I still don't know what really happened that night. I was very young, maybe 5 or 6 years old, when this took place. Even back then, I was unusually aware of my surroundings. Sounds felt louder to me, shadows seemed deeper, and places carried emotions, almost like they were alive. That's probably why I loved visiting my grandparents so much. They lived in a small, quiet village in Germany, the kind of place where time seemed to slow down after sunset. Narrow streets, old houses with thick walls, and long winters where the cold pressed against the windows like it wanted to come inside. Winter evenings at my grandparents' house were always the same, and that sameness felt comforting. We would sit together in the living room, the television quietly playing whatever program happened to be on. Cookies on a plate, hot air humming from the furnace. Outside, the village would sink into complete darkness, broken only by the occasional street lamp. Before bed, my grandmother had a routine. She would stand up slowly, grab her cigarettes, and walk out to the porch. You could reach it by passing through the living room and then the dining room. Sometimes she did this once, sometimes twice, and sometimes, in the middle of the night, she would quietly get out of bed to smoke one more cigarette, careful not to wake anyone. Because of my age, and because I was terrified of the guest room, I slept in her bed with her. That other room. I still don't know why it scared me so much. I remember being overwhelmed by fear whenever I was supposed to sleep there. But when I try to picture the reason, my mind goes blank. I can't remember the image that frightened me. Only the feeling remains. A deep, crawling dread that didn't belong to a child. So my grandmother let me sleep beside her. Her bed felt safe. It smelled like clean sheets, cigarettes, and something familiar I can't quite name. When she was there, nothing could hurt me. Or at least, that's what I believed. That night started like any other. Cookies, television, the warm glow of the living room, fighting off the darkness outside. Eventually, we went to bed. I fell asleep quickly, wrapped in blankets, listening to the quiet creaks of the house settling. Then I woke up. At first, I didn't understand why. The room was dark, the way it always was, but something felt wrong. Too quiet, too empty. I turned my head. My grandmother wasn't in the bed. I remember the instant panic that hit me. My heart started racing, and my chest felt tight. I didn't cry, I didn't call out. I just knew I had to find her. I slid out of bed and stepped into the hallway. The hallway was long, much longer than it ever felt during the day. Even now, when I think about it, it reminds me of something straight out of The Shining. A narrow, endless stretch of floor, disappearing into darkness. At the far end, I saw her. She was entering the living room just as she always did, before stepping out onto the porch. Her back was to me, her posture familiar, her movements slow and calm. I called out softly. She turned her head and looked at me. It was my grandmother, no doubt about it. She smiled and said, "Honey, go back to bed. I'll be back in 5 minutes." Her voice sounded normal, warm, reassuring. So I listened. I turned around and walked back down the hallway, my fear fading with every step. I climbed back into bed, pulled the blanket up to my chin, and waited. And that's when it happened. I rolled onto my side. My grandmother was lying right next to me, asleep, breathing slowly, exactly the way she had been when I first fell asleep. For a moment, my mind couldn't process what I was seeing. I just stared at her face, lit faintly by moonlight coming through the window. Her expression was peaceful, unmoved, as if she had never left the bed at all. Then I heard footsteps, slow, deliberate steps, moving through the living room. I felt them more than I heard them. Each step seemed to vibrate through the floor, through my body. My heart started pounding so hard, I was sure it would wake her. But she didn't move. I didn't scream. I didn't run. I pulled the blanket over my head and stayed perfectly still. I was wide awake for the rest of the night. Every sound felt amplified. The ticking of a clock, the wind outside, the house breathing around me. The footsteps eventually stopped, but the feeling of being watched didn't go away. Morning finally came. Sunlight filled the room. Birds started chirping outside. Everything was normal. My grandmother woke up, smiled at me, and acted like any other day. I never asked her if she'd gotten up that night. I was too afraid of the answer. For years, I tried to explain it away. Maybe I was half asleep. Maybe I dreamed the whole way. Maybe my mind filled in the gaps. At one point, I even convinced myself that something was wrong with me, that I was schizophrenic or hallucinating. That idea scared me, but it felt safer than believing something impossible had happened. But I was never diagnosed with anything. Nothing like that ever happened again. No voices, no visions, no repeating events. Just this one night, one moment that refuses to fade. Even now, I don't claim it was a ghost. I don't claim it was something supernatural. But I know what I saw. I know I was awake, and I know my grandmother can't have been in 2 places at the same time. Some memories grow softer with age. This one never did. Sometimes, the scariest stories aren't about monsters or haunted houses. Sometimes, they're about a single moment in childhood. A moment when reality cracked. Just enough to let something impossible slip through, and then sealed itself shut again, leaving you alone with the memory. The girl who wouldn't let me leave the camp. This story will tell us about a place meant for songs, bonfires, and childhood memories. A summer camp where something old and angry still wandered the woods. A place where one night was enough to change everything I believed. I need to start this story the same way I always do, with honesty. Before this happened, I did not believe in ghosts, not even a little. I thought ghost stories were just traditions people pass down to scare kids and keep them in line. Nothing more. But after that summer, I never thought the same way again. I was about to start my sophomore year of high school when I worked at this summer camp. I wasn't even a full counselor yet. I was still in training. Just a teenager, excited, nervous, and trying to act braver than I actually was. On our very first week, they told us where we'd be sleeping. The girls were assigned to what everyone casually referred to as the haunted cabin. They said it like it was a joke, like it was normal. According to camp legend, a little girl's spirit lived there. Her name was Magdalene, and there was one rule you had to follow if you stayed in that cabin. Every single night, before going to sleep, you had to say, "Good night, Magdalene." They claimed that if you didn't, she wouldn't like it. Being the stubborn teenager I was, my reaction was simple: absolutely not. I rolled my eyes, laughed it off, and crawled into my sleeping bag without saying a word to anyone who might or might not be listening. That night, everyone else in the cabin fell asleep quickly. I didn't. I don't know what woke me up. There was no loud noise, no scream, no sudden movement. Just that strange feeling you get when your body wakes before your mind understands why. Then I heard it, a soft, trembling voice, right inside the cabin. "Let me out. Please." My heart slammed into my ribs. I shot upright, grabbed my flashlight, and scanned the room. My first thought was that someone was messing with me. A prank, a joke, teenagers do stupid things. I looked up at the bunk above me. The girl sleeping there was completely out cold, slow breathing, not moving, not pretending. I swept the flashlight across the cabin. Nothing. I tried to laugh it off. I told myself I was half asleep, that my brain was playing tricks on me. Then the voice came again. "Please, I want to leave." That was it. I didn't investigate. I didn't ask questions. I zipped myself completely inside my sleeping bag, pulled it tight around my face, and stayed frozen until morning. I don't think I slept a single second after that. The next day, I told my supervisor what happened. She didn't laugh. She didn't look surprised. She just asked one question. "Did you say goodnight to the little girl?" When I said no, her expression changed, just slightly, enough to make my stomach drop. She said very calmly, "Just tell her goodnight tonight. She'll leave you alone." That should have terrified me, but somehow it didn't. A few nights later, something worse happened. Half of the girls in our cabin went to bed early. The rest of us stayed up talking, whispering, laughing quietly so we wouldn't get in trouble. None of the girls who went to sleep said goodnight. That's when we saw it. A glowing orb, bright, white, and unmistakably real, floated through the cabin. It wasn't dust. It wasn't light from outside. It moved with purpose, weaving between bunks like it knew exactly where it was going. We screamed, all of us. We ran straight to the supervisor's cabin, hysterical, trying to explain what we'd seen. After calming us down, they exchanged looks. Then one of them said something that made everything worse. Apparently, one of the male supervisors had been in our cabin earlier that day, and Magdalene hated men. That night, we went to bed in silence. The next morning, I confronted the male supervisor. Let's call him Tommy. Half joking, half dead serious, I told him, "Dude, what the hell? You pissed her off." He didn't laugh. Instead, he asked me if I wanted to hear about his curse. I won't repeat it. For the sake of anyone who works or lives near those woods, I never will. What I can say is this: whatever lived there didn't just stay in the cabin. It hunted people, but only when they were alone. Tommy and the boys he supervised told me story after story. Late-night bathroom trips where footprints appeared outside the door. Footprints that weren't waiting, but pacing, back and forth, like an animal stalking prey. One boy was scratched across the back of his neck while walking to his cabin alone. No explanation, no witnesses, just marks. And then, it was my turn. One evening, all the counselors were told to attend a private mass at the camp church. My friends wanted to stop by the cabin first to grab some things. I didn't feel like going back. So, like an idiot, I decided to wait by the church, alone. The area was wide open, the church behind me, trees lining the path in front of me. To my right, a bridge my friends would have to cross to reach me. I was standing there, facing the path, when I saw someone walking toward me. Relieved, I called out, "Hey, I'm over here." The figure stopped. That was strange. I called again, louder. "Hey, I'm over here." Worst decision of my life. The figure's head snapped toward me instantly. What I saw wasn't human. It was a solid black shape, taller than it should have been, with glowing red eyes locked directly onto mine. No face, no features, just hunger. Right as it looked like it was about to move toward me, I heard my friends shouting my name from the bridge. I turned to look at them. When I looked back, it was gone. That was the moment everything changed. Since that summer, I've been able to sense things, feel presences, hear whispers, see shadows that don't belong. Looking back, I realize I always could. As a kid, I just thought they were imaginary friends. Now, I know better. I live my life carefully now. I let light in. I keep the darkness out. And wherever Magdalene is, I hope she finally found her way out of those woods. Some places don't just hold memories. They hold spirits. And sometimes, they're not ready to let you leave. Hello, and welcome to Scary Stories. Tonight, you'll hear two chilling encounters that began in places meant to feel safe. A quiet grandmother's house, where a child saw the impossible, and a summer camp hidden deep in the woods, where something watched, waited, and refused to let go. These are stories from people who didn't believe in ghosts, until one night changed everything. So get comfortable and listen closely.